bring in Democratic Congressman Colin Allred of Texas. Congressman, good to see you. Thanks for waiting as this breaking news was just happening as we were getting ready to talk to you, so we're really appreciative. Let me ask you your take, Mr. Congressman, on Facebook's Independent Oversight Board, which has now ruled to uphold that social media ban on former President Trump. What is your take on that decision?
You know, I was in the Capitol on January 6th, one of the darkest days in our democracy. And I think that the same activity that led to this ban in the first place is still going on. President Trump has not repudiated his comments. In fact, he's doubling down on those comments. He is still extremely dangerous for our democracy, and I think he would still use any platform that he's given to spread the big lie and to risk our democracy and to ultimately incite violence. You know, at the Capitol, we are still very much under a high alert. We're still recognizing that domestic terrorism in the form of oftentimes Trump supporters believing the election was fraudulent is the greatest national security risk we face here at home right now. So to me, whatever the decision-making went into the initial ban, those factors are still in place. So I agree with the decision.
All right, now that we got you here, you know we're going to be bouncing around to different topics. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy said in an interview yesterday that his GOP colleagues have lost confidence in Congresswoman Liz Cheney, who voted to impeach former President Trump, as you know, and continues to criticize him. He then was caught on a hot mic saying, "I've had it with her." There's now rumors circulating that Congresswoman and staunch Trump ally Elise Stefanik could replace her. Your reaction to all that is going on within the party when it comes to Liz Cheney and the possibility of her being replaced?
Well, you know, far be it for me to say what's going on in the Republican caucus, but I'm somebody who thinks that we need to have a functional Republican Party. I actually have a very good bipartisan record in my time in Congress and have some friends on the other side, and I'm sure the ones that I'm thinking of are embarrassed by this. I wish they were fighting as hard as they are to try and get rid of Liz Cheney from leadership. They were fighting that hard for the American people, for jobs, for helping people recover from this pandemic, for saving lives. There are so many more important things going on in the country and in the world. And this is what they're spending so much of their energy on, is trying to purge from leadership someone who just won't go along with the big lie. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It's frightening to me in the direction that their party is going in. This is someone who thinks that he should be the next Speaker of the House, but who can't even have a member of his own leadership who recognizes the election wasn't fraudulent. I mean, come on, we have a lot of more important things to be doing. They should be doing a lot more important things. And I hope that we can get back to talking about infrastructure and jobs and helping people recover from this pandemic, because it's been a tough year for people. I don't think anyone has any patience for this kind of stuff.
Congressman, let me just ask you, and we don't have to get specific, but our congressional correspondent, Nicole Killian, is reporting that Steve Scalise, who's the whip, the number 2 Republican in the House, is now backing Representative Stefanik to replace Representative Cheney, and has released a statement that says this: House Republicans need to be solely focused on taking back the House in 2022 and fighting against Speaker Pelosi and President Biden's radical socialist agenda. And Elise Stefanik is strongly committed to doing that, which is why Whip Scalise has pledged to support her for conference chair. Here's my question about that. Help our viewers understand actually what goes on in Congress when things like this are released to the press. In other words, does this really mean that Representative Cheney is done for? Because why would Whip Scalise release this statement if he didn't think that he had the votes to oust her? Or could this be a surprise for him and Leader McCarthy if the Republicans do hold this vote again, that she comes out victorious as she did during the last vote? I'm just trying to understand if this is a foregone conclusion or not, regardless of party.
I don't know. I think in general, when you put something out like that, you're trying to ramp up the pressure. And so whether or not they have the votes or they're just trying to apply pressure to people they think are wavering, obviously the Republican leadership has decided that they want to make this move. As I said, I think there are much more important things for them to be doing, for us to be doing. It's amazing to me how much energy and how rapid their reaction is to something like this, when for a year, many of them were trying to ignore the pandemic itself, saying it wasn't happening, or supporting a president who wasn't responding, I think, in a way that we needed to respond to it. So, you know, this is what they've decided to spend their time and their energy on, is going after probably the most conservative member of their caucus, who just doesn't agree that the election was stolen and who refuses to be kowtowed and who refuses to go along with this lie. So, I mean, to me, this is a real problem for us as a Congress in general, because, as I said, we need to have a functioning Republican Party. We need to have a partner on the other side that we can work with, one that isn't, focused on these kind of internal battles to try and purge out folks who are just willing to tell the truth.